have seen your future, Oliver. I have watched you die.
Stephen Amell, the man who wonderfully portrayed Oliver Queen or the Green Arrow in the hit TV series Arrow, has offered to return to his role for one more season. And the imminent resurrection of the Green Arrow is not only plausible in the DC universe, but it's looking like the cast and crew might thrill us again with one more season. So hit that like, share, and subscribe button as we bring you 10 things to expect in Arrow Season 9. As just a quick refresher or FYI for those who are unaware, after a rough sunken ship mishap, Oliver Queen, a multimillionaire playboy, finds himself stranded on a desert island where he trains himself to survive in the wilderness with his trusty bow.
That person, he always finds a way.
He was reported missing, then dead for 5 years until he finally found the means to return to his hometown. Upon his arrival, he realizes the injustice and decay of his city and decides to take a stand. Soon he becomes the vigilante known as the Green Arrow and sets out to restore the former glory of Starling City. During the day, as he closes his hidden identity with darkness, Oliver Queen plays the part of a rich, reckless, and careless philanderer who is always flanked by John Diggle, his trusted driver and bodyguard. But as soon as corruption runs rampant, he ditches his bodyguard and puts on the green to fight crime. This TV series has lasted for 8 seasons, and fans would love to see a return. To the great delight of the fans, in a recent podcast, Stephen Amell expressed how he's 100% in favor of bringing us a Season 9, and he shared his ideas with the show's producers. He disclosed his conversation with the producer Greg Berlanti, where he expressed his enthusiasm for an Arrow revival. Amell was quoted saying, "From my perspective, it wasn't a far-fetched thing. Although the idea of another season of Arrow is desired by fans, the ongoing health crisis created major obstacles for a lot of the supporting actors to get to Canada and start production." Amell, on the other hand, actually lives in Canada, so his commute accompanies a modicum of difficulty. Amell stated, "I'm here, and if I have to stay here, I want to work. If I'm going to work, let's just figure out a way to bring Oliver back from the dead."
In light of your secret, but I know who you are in your bones, Oliver.
Now, for some of this, we need to apologize as some spoilers might be present. With that said, the finale of Arrow in 2020 kinda crushed the fans because the satisfying 8-year run of Arrow came to an end. Suited up for the last time, the Oliver Queen legacy came to its demise following the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. However, as much as fans may have already come to terms with the termination of Green Arrow, enthusiasm purges again as it seems Arrow will return. And for other people more versed in the esoteric happenings of the show, the return of the Arrowverse is sooner than expected. In this regard, the pandemic is not the only major obstacle to getting a Season 9. Although Amell's mind and soul is fully engaged in creating Season 9, his body is grounded in reality, and this presents some major problems as he recently suffered a back injury on the set of the latest show he was working on titled Heels. So many speculate that it's unlikely for Amell to get suited up again as the Green Arrow anytime in the very near future. But let's keep our fingers crossed and the hope alive because although there's been little news on the show's spin-off, Green Arrow and the Canaries, and the current crisis not showing signs of coming to an end, the return of Arrow could definitely be the way forward. According to the man often referred to as Arrow in the streets, the coronavirus pandemic left him in a situation where he was desperate for work. And although the coronavirus has presented many problems for the globe, it has been a factor that compels Amell to vigorously strive for a Season 9. Millions of people reject the new normal and want to get back to work. Amell is among that group, even though he's previously pushed back on ever returning to the Arrowverse, even for a guest appearance in the past. Apparently, Amell called Arrowverse producer Greg Berlanti and asked him if they could figure out a way to bring back Oliver Queen from the dead in case he continues to go out of work. Of course, this idea of resurrecting Oliver for a 9th season is unlikely to ever come to fruition, but it has led to a lot of talk about how it would work. Nonetheless, here's what Arrow Season 9 could be about if it does come to a realization. So how will it all go down if Arrow Season 9 is actually produced? And what would the show be like? And how would Stephen Amell's Oliver Queen be brought back to the land of the living?
Because that's what you do. What you have always done. You fight to survive.
We all know that after several years of saving Star City and fighting alongside other heroes to protect the world, Oliver lost his life in the 2019-2020 Arrowverse crossover event, Crisis on Infinite Earths.
That's okay, Sarah.
After perishing in an attempt to save the people of Supergirl's world, Oliver returned as the Spectre and died again in a dramatic showdown with the Anti-Monitor, played by LaMonica Garrett. In the conclusion of the Arrow series, Oliver entered the afterlife to be with Felicity, the gorgeous genius nerd played by Emily Bett Rickards. And that ended Oliver's Arrowverse story for the most part. Although Green Arrow is seemingly gone from the Arrowverse forever, Green Arrow is forever just like his Justice League counterparts like Batman and Wonder Woman. So his legacy lives on as characters like Barry Allen, portrayed by Grant Gustin, continue to remember the impact he had on their lives and the DC Universe. While the Arrowverse has moved on from Arrow, Stephen Amell has recently restarted discussions and speculations about the possibility of the character returning in some capacity. So how can the Green Arrow return? Well, the Arrowverse is a world full of ways to bring back nearly any character at any time. You'd surely be aware of this if you've been keeping up with the original comic books. One of the most obvious ways is time travel, and we all know that Superman and the Flash have been known to move so fast they're able to travel back in time.
Your new friends betrayed you.
Moreover, other characters in the DC Universe have the ability to manipulate time and space, and they might be determined to prevent the death, the destruction of Star City, or the world, even if it means redesigning the past and preventing the death of a DC hero. In other stretches of science fiction, Oliver could be plucked from a previous point in his timeline and brought to the present, where he would have to cope with the knowledge of his premature death in the crisis, but be tasked to uphold his creed of protecting Star City. However, if that were the case, the show wouldn't be able to move Oliver forward since it would be working with a past version.
Someone's hacked into the emergency broadcast system. They've taken over all the networks.
And as every dark cloud has a silver lining, it could advance the stories of the other Arrowverse characters, such as Renee, played by Rick Gonzalez, Dina, played by Juliana Harkavy, Earth 2 Laurel, played by Katie Cassidy, and more. Also, there's the matter of Diggle, who is played by David Ramsey, who was called to take up the position as Arrow in the final series. And to add to the diversity of the Arrowverse, the show's storyline could find new things to do with the characters that were resurrected by the crisis, including Moira, played by Susanna Thompson, Tommy, portrayed by Colin Donnell, Captain Lance, played by Paul Blackthorne, and Emikio, played by C. Shimuka. Arrow's final episode explored some of the events that were changed and could be used as leads to what to expect in Season 9. Unfortunately, it didn't have enough time to go as far as it could have, but this won't be too difficult to rectify, because with time travel on the table, more changes and consequences could be revealed as other key events in Arrow's history are incorporated.
To be the symbol of hope?
As we vaguely mentioned earlier, another way to use time travel is to combine Arrow Season 9 with its Green Arrow and the Canaries concept. If the show doesn't get picked up at the CW, the idea behind the show could be recycled into Arrow Season 9, with Oliver Queen time traveling to 2040. Where he could form an alliance with his daughter, Mia, played by Catherine McNamara. This would allow the show to give Oliver a completely different supporting cast and direction, which might be exactly what's needed since the powers that be still insist on blocking travel due to the pandemic. And if this was the case, it could be fun to see Oliver Queen in a future version of Star City with a fresh group of powerful metahumans under his guidance and leadership. Would you like to see the return of Arrow? And if so, what methods of reviving his legacy would you prefer? Let us know about your ideas in the comments section down below, then be sure to like, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Let go, Barry! No, I'm not leaving you. You're fast enough! Take it away! Go!